quorum. This is the Boxwood Finance Committee meeting, October 15th. And firstly, I'll do a roll call attendance because we have some of us on Zoom. So, Kishaba, can you hear me? Actually, Nick, we're not seeing the screen for the
It's not on.
Oh,
the Zoom.
Are you plugged in?
no, the Zoom screen's
I'm
plugged in,
Oh,
Yeah.
because that's a Zoom screen,
Yeah.
just your
This needs to
Yeah.
be turned on.
camera's not. Oh, there we go.
yeah.
Okay.
Kishaba, can you hear me?
Well, I can text him and see if he can
Yeah,
hear
we'll,
us.
yeah, we'll come back to him. So we'll do a roll calls. John Grieven.
Here.
Becky Neville.
Here,
Joe Stolpin.
Here.
Maria Nayland.
Here.
And John Connor.
here.
And Tony Newton here, present. We also have some guests with us tonight. We have Mike Johns. We have Adam Klein. We have Tori Campbell. We have Dave...
McKiernan.
yeah.
And we have
So-
Priya on the screen.
And we have Priya on screen, yeah. And we have Susan back from Boxwood News. Okay, so firstly, the minutes of October the 1st meeting. There was...
Priya can't hear us either.
Oh,
So there's got to be something.
Oh, okay.
So, Nick, the Zoom world can't hear us. Can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear us, anybody?
it should be good now?
I just heard you on my computer.
I'm here now.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay, good.
So,
So,
Yeah, Kashava, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, can you call out present so we get you on the minutes? Kashava, did you say you're present? That's what we need.
Present?
Yeah, thank you. Great. So minutes of October the 1st meeting, we noted one amendment on the minutes, which was John Connor was marked absent for the online version for some reason.
You're actually both, John.
You were on there twice, yeah. Are there any other comments on the minutes?
move to approve as amended.
I'll second that.
Approved and moved and seconded. So we do a roll call in favour. Kashava,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Maria,
Aye.
yeah, John,
Aye.
Tony, aye. Okay. Citizens' concerns? Anything from citizens' comments? Okay. Reserve fund transfers. Nothing, Mike, from reserve fund transfers yet? No. Okay. Okay. So a couple of dashboard things. But firstly, the update on the ClearGov. I think we've got no more information from ClearGov yet in terms of whether we can do anything with that. So still waiting on that. Okay. So we have got a dashboard which I will share with everybody. Send it out this afternoon as well. And just to remind everybody, this is a quarterly update of information that we have to hand, so we can actually just quickly review what's happening with our finances. And we cover spending, income, reserves, debts, staffing, and outstanding taxes. So in terms of our spending, and I'll try and make this bigger if I can. Too big now.
There you go.
I think we're pretty much on track for quarter one. The only anomaly there, which I noticed, and I know the reason for this, is the retirement funding, the admin retirement funding employment benefits, was a big hit this month because we had a one-off payment, I believe, to our pension fund of 1.3 million. So that's an understandable thing. So other than that, we're pretty much tracking in line with the quarters.
But can I ask, so do we not pay it quarterly? Because, I mean, that's like more, definitely more than half of it, so do we,
We pay it annually.
oh, we pay it,
That's
oh,
all.
Yeah.
that's all of it? So like, we're $1 million,
So we're $1 million to the good?
No, it's not. It's not all of that stuff. It's
Okay, retirement, it's all the employee
yeah.
benefits and
Okay, it's
insurance too, okay.
retirement. There's also the benefits.
All right,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got you.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Too bad,
Okay,
I'm
and
willing to
then
do what we can do.
income. These are the income statements. These are a little bit low right now. I think property tax is on track, but others are low. Not sure why that is. Maybe it's be fluctuations, quarterly fluctuations.
Because the bills aren't due right now.
Property tax.
Property taxes, they
Well,
get billed, so they get billed twice a year.
Well,
they pay
they're quarterly
quarterly. They
payments.
pay quarterly. And the property tax is actually in line. Right? It's 25%.
Yeah, the property tax is fine, but like state
It's
aid's
local-
low,
State aid is low. Yeah.
and so are local receipts.
Yeah, but local receipts are excise tax, right? So that's not billed out
Yeah,
yet.
and meals tax and
yeah,
hotels
meals
tax.
is only a quarter, but that's not billed out yet. The excise taxes aren't billed out.
Yeah, that's
I
what
haven't gotten my
January.
excise bill.
Right.
Yeah, that's usually what, like January-ish or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Well, we should go up and look at last year, see how it played out quarter by quarter last year. Then maybe.
Yeah.
And as for state aid, I'm not sure, Mike. How that comes in? Does it come in on a quarterly basis? State aid?
It doesn't look like we've gotten almost anything yet. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what the
Yeah.
schedule is for the check on that.
Yeah. Okay. And the tax, we have more information to come on this, so don't have that one. It's in the wrong place. Our reserves, I'm waiting for some information here as well. This is up to date now with our free cash number, and our reserve fund obviously is updated, and our stabilisation fund. But I don't know what the overlay reserve fund is at the moment, or the OPEB fund. So I'm waiting on getting numbers for that. I think Honghua was not sure where to get those numbers from, so she's still working on that.
Well, the overlay reserve fund should get from the assessor.
That's where she'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our debts, I had some questions on this as well. I got this late this afternoon from Naomi. So it looks like in terms of our outstanding bonding, it didn't change at all. We paid interest on it, but we didn't pay any principal from that bonding. I'm not quite sure why that is. Last year we paid principal and interest every quarter. This year we don't show any interest being paid in Q1. So
Any
I've been
principal. Any principal being paid.
no, yeah. So you paid interest but no principal. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure why that is, and whether that's a strategy or.
Well, it depends on what's left for the bonds, right? Because if it's bands, that's going to be just interest, right? So it depends on what, so
That's it, I'm not-
did we,
But-
last year when we paid the principal, did we pay off whatever bond would be principal and interest? And if these are bands, then they're going to be interest
But
only.
there's still $5 million outstanding. That wouldn't be all bands, would it?
It could be multiple bands. It shouldn't be, because once you get,
More than $2 million, we
we should
usually.
be refinancing it.
Yeah.
But they're,
Yeah.
so you got to just figure out what's into that, in that number.
Yeah. So it's a question anyway. So I have to figure out. And then the other question I had about the debts was, we took out 645,000 new bonds in the town meeting. I'm not sure where they appear, whether they're in here yet or whether they are somewhere else in our debts. So
Yeah, no,
I've got some questions for Naomi.
Well,
about
did we
that.
actually take bonds out at town meeting, or we banned things at town
We
meeting?
took out. They were to be bonded. They're probably bans right now.
Probably bands,
Right.
but
But I'm not sure where that appears in terms of our list of debts.
it should be in the outstanding principal. But that
Somewhere,
doesn't
yeah.
make any sense, because it would have been effective July 1.
Yeah, this down here. Sorry, we've got short-term borrowing here, but that's unchanged from last year. That's the Sergeant Road stuff.
Sergeant Road stuff. Wait, what do you mean the Sergeant Road stuff? I thought that was paid off.
That's all.
We paid off,
Yeah, we
Sergeant,
paid off Sergeant
we
Road.
paid off Sergeant Road. So we had $675, we had a $400,000 grant that came in from Sudbury Valley Trust, and then we went to a special town meeting and we used free cash to pay off the balance of that.
Huh.
So
Okay.
that should not have a balance, I don't think.
Okay.
The bonded stuff should just be the road
Yeah, that's a 645, right? Yeah, yeah, that's not this, but I mean,
Yeah, but that 675 should not be, that's not short-term bonding anymore, that's all paid off,
okay.
which,
So that's not a question I can name it then, I can answer that question.
Yeah.
This is the number she gave me, so I mean,
so maybe that,
Yeah.
how much did you say the new bonding was?
645,000.
645,000. I don't know, but that should be zero, and if
Yeah.
it's not, we need to look into that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that money was certainly allotted at town
Yeah,
meeting
yeah.
for it.
Okay, well, I'll go back to Naomi and ask that question. And then last I'll show is the staffing. So we're actually almost fully staffed. We've got one open vacancy, which is the recreation coordinator. Other than that, we're at full staff on protection and everywhere else. So we've done pretty well in that.
Don't we have a couple of admin positions open right now? Or do you fill
Yeah,
them?
This is reflecting last quarter.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, and we also have 2 open fire positions right now from people who just left. But this is reflecting last quarter, so
Okay.
we're working to fill those 2 positions as well.
Okay, so that's the dashboard. Any questions on that at all?
So you'll just ask about the debt,
Yes,
we can get a.
yeah.
Priya's got a question.
Priya's got her hand up.
Priya, did you have a question?
And not a question, but we can't hear Mike.
Oh,
Oh, you can't hear Mike? Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause- okay.
take the mic, Mike.
Okay, so the next topic is the investment strategy. This is just follow-ups from the last meeting. I know one was the OPEB funding policy, Mike. I think you would get back to select board and discuss that with them about whether we fund the pensions first and then OPEB, or OPEB first and then pensions. So that was an open question at the last meeting.
I haven't discussed that with the board yet, but after giving it a lot of consideration, my recommendation to the select board is going to be that we pay off the OPEB first. That's the much lower amount, and so I would agree with what the gentleman from Bartholomew, Brian, told us when he was here. Pay off the OPEB, and then take that and start concentrating that along with our regular pension annual amount to start then paying down our unfunded liability on pension. So I think the way you have it written up, I would agree with that, and I'm going to recommend that to the select board.
Okay, so we can get some wording together and
Yes,
then we'll vote on that and put it into the financial policies.
yes.
Okay. And the other thing to update on was the special town meeting article about moving some of the funds into the prudent investment bucket. And actually, you and I need to get together on that and refine that wording, I think. So that's still outstanding to do, I think.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Okay. Next topic is CPC. This is Becky Neville asked me to put this on the agenda to
Yeah.
talk about CPC funding.
So CPC met last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't even know, but since our last meeting, and we've got 4 proposals for this coming May town meeting, and one of them's from housing, and it's for BRAP, which we've had for like ever, since I think for years, and it's Boxborough Rental Housing Assistance Program. Thank you. And what it does is for people in low-income housing, and it's not necessarily deed-restricted low-income, but it can be the condos. If your rent's high and you're having a hard time making it, for up to 3 years, this pays $250 a month directly to the landlord it offsets your rent. But the problem is it hasn't increased in like 10 years or whatever, and rents obviously keep going up. So they came with a proposal of up to $500, not to be more than 20% of your rent. So it would slide between $250 and $500, but $500 being the cap, and it can't be more than 20%. But the problem is, what that does is that'll use 25% of the annual CPC funds, because we have a 1% surcharge. So then during the meeting, one of the members suggested talking about trying to increase it to 2%. But then John said, well, maybe you go from, John Fallon, none of the Johns here, said maybe you go from having the first $100,000 not surcharged to having the first $200,000. So it's all sort of like really squishy, because it takes a town meeting vote and a ballot vote to increase it. And I don't know, and so John said to me, can you see what FinCom thinks? He said, because I don't want to, if FinCom is not supportive of this, I don't want to keep pushing for it, because I think he feels like if FinCom doesn't support it, it won't go anywhere. I don't think it'll be a tough year to do it between a fire station and just regular budgets. I don't know. I mean, I understand the need for it. I just, we talked about, do you do it as a warrant article? So you have so much as a warrant article and so much from CPC funds. You could do that too, and then town meeting would have the option. But anyway, somebody just suggested a 2%, changing it from 1% to 2%. So I said I would bring it back and get the sense of the committee and go back.
Okay, what did the FinCom think?
So I think we've done a lot of good stuff with the CPC money, and it's nice to be able to get the stuff done and go to town meeting, and the money's already come off your tax bill, and it doesn't hurt quite as much for, I'm a little concerned with going to 2% this year, because we will probably have a fire station. We need a fire station, so we will probably have a fire station override. I have no idea where we will end up with the budget. It's hard enough to get, I'm already struggling with whether I'll even support that, let alone, so I just think we have to be really, really, really sensitive to the taxpayers this year. And last year, they had a huge hit, right? So they had an override-sized tax increase. And then this year, we're going to come back to them and say, even if we can manage this budget, we're going to turn around and say, the fire station is X number of dollars, and this is what it's going to cost each house. And that's not going to be inexpensive. That's going to be expensive. So I don't know that this is the year for it. Although I do think, all in all, CPC has been really great for the town, and we've gotten some really great projects done with it. So that's something to think about.
So the town can decide how much the surcharge is.
Anywhere between 1% to 3%.
Okay.
I mean, they could go to 1.5%, they could go to 2% or 2.5% or up to 3%, but,
And then in theory, the state matches.
well,
But
not
they've gone from matching
100% down to like, it varies on how much money's left in the state budget at the end of the year and how much they turn in. So like, I think last year might have been 30 some odd percent. So it's certainly not what it used to be. But
So I'm sorry if I don't know the math right off the bat. If this goes from 1% to 2%, what's the impact to the household?
well, it's 1% of your assessed.
Okay, so
It's-
we're talking assessed value, right?
Well, it's 1% of what your taxes are. Yeah, whatever your taxes are. Like, say your taxes are, $100, it would be 1%. I think.
And it says that if you look at your tax bill, it actually has your taxes, and then it says CPC surcharge.
I know it says it on the tax bill, but do you have an estimate of what
No, I don't
what the
know.
impact would
But
be?
it means if our taxes were to go up, say, 5%, now it'd be 6%.
Yeah.
It's another percent,
Yeah.
full
It is.
percentage point.
So I said I'd bring it back so we could get, the pulse of the committee.
Yeah. Yeah. Kristen?
Use the microphone.
So Becky, is this being driven only by the housing board wanting to fund this program?
I think it's being driven because when it was first proposed to the town, Jean and Rita thought 2% was good, but they didn't think they could get 2% past town meeting.
Okay.
But I do think a lot of it's because of what the housing board wants. I mean, Rita said there's only so much property in town that the town's going to continue to be able to buy for conservation and recreation, so then more of the unrestricted funds could go towards housing. But it's a big piece of the housing, of the budget, if we went to that.
Okay, only because I'm their liaison, so I've been actually good about attending their meetings. And I was there last week, and I actually suggested to them that if the town is going to make a commitment to the rental assistance program, that maybe they need a budget with a light item, and that it would start as a warrant article this year. And if the town says, yes, we want to support people that are struggling to make their rent, it becomes a budget item in the following years. Because I'm not sure that, because housing gets 25%, right? They get the allocation?
Gets dedicated 10%.
10%.
Each of the buckets gets a dedicated
Right.
10%, and then 65% goes to unrestricted that they can use for anything.
Right.
But the thing is we don't, at being a 1% town, we don't get enough, so we're not able to build houses, like
Right.
affordable housing units or anything. We just we have money and we can help people, and this has been one of the ways they've been able to do it.
Sure. Okay, so backing it up a little bit, only because you brought up the BRAP, they did do, Wendy did a survey. We are definitely one of the lower numbers, we're not truly supporting people. Let's be honest, $300 doesn't even buy a month's worth of groceries. So I do believe we need to increase that. They don't have a lot of people applying for it, but they want to get it out there. Just so I kind of, my thought is let's bring it to the town. I believe Foxborough's generous of heart. I think they're more apt to allocate X tens of thousands of dollars for rental assistance that could roll, because it'll be a warrant article, than going up 1% on the CPA, because I just think the percent on the CPA.
So not fund any of it with CPC, because it's always been, since they came into existence, CPC's funded it.
And how much is it funded?
Oh, God, I don't have my notes with me. I think it's up in, I think it's extra 25,000, I think it's like $25,000.
And then there was a little extra with the ARPA money.
Yeah.
They increased
Right.
it for a couple of years.
Right, they increased it from 12 households to 14 households.
Right. I don't know, I guess I feel like, I kind of agree with what you're all saying, is going it up an extra percent when we've got so much else going on might be a hard thing for people to swallow, and maybe they need to have that option. And the fallback is the housing board will still have their 10%, and the CPC committee can still allocate more as necessary, but why not see what town
And we
meeting
have the
says?
trust.
And they
right?
have the trust,
And
exactly.
presumably, the trust will get funded pretty soon with some money.
So wait, so you said 14 households,
14 households.
$250 a month,
Yes.
300, I thought it was.
It's 250.
42 grand a year.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
$42,000 a year. Now you want to add to that.
Right, they want,
Okay.
and it's sliding, so I think John did a quick, on the back of the napkin, it was like $65,000, which he says is 25%.
Yeah, so Kristen, I think we end up in the same place. If it's
I
a
know,
warrant
but at least the
article-
voter feels like they've got an option, or I know what the money is going. I don't know, it just feels more transparent to me. I
Except that
hate
if you
that
do a
word.
warrant, if you do a warrant article, then like if all of a sudden people are relying on this and the town chooses not to fund it because there are other budget priorities.
Fair enough.
Then you kind of screw these people who are like,
Yeah.
hoping for this money because they can, get it for up to 3 years.
And it is life-changing. All right, no, I see that point too. I'm just trying to think, like, how do you get it out there to make people understand there is a need and support it and have a
Because,
safety net?
we can cut a budget, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty good at that.
You
So,
are.
CPC is
Okay.
just a recurring thing that's
Yeah.
until we want to get rid of it if we ever did.
And that takes a voter town meeting too, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
All right,
but
well, that was just from attending the meeting. I do think it's a really important and good program, so.
So then if we did want to increase it, it sounds like it's more of an optics thing than anything. Like if you've got a $10,000 property tax, a 1% increase is another, $100?
Yeah, I don't even.
Like, it's
yeah.
not
It's not a lot, but
a
it's
lot.
again, is,
But
But it's
you
on
read,
top
But
of-
if you read that and you see 1 to 2, you're kind of like, seriously, you're going to double this?
We might be saying this a few times over the next few months. so
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Just,
so-
based on, if your taxes, my taxes went up, $600 last year.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's not a big deal, but there are people in town, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I always go back to this, there are people, especially seniors in town, that cannot afford these
Yep.
increases. And so $100 may not be a big deal to us,
Mm-hmm.
that might be a big deal to them.
Yep.
$100 on top of everything else we're going to
Right,
throw at
that's
them.
right,
It's
right.
not
Yep.
just $100.
Yeah, it's an extra $100 on top of everything else we haven't even talked about
Yeah,
yet.
Not just seniors, my daughter, young families.
yeah.
So that's tough, because it is a really good program, but, perhaps it needs to be funded, CPC and maybe the Affordable Housing Trust, for a couple of years until we get our house back in order, because I feel like we've got a little bit of a chaotic financial position
Well, we've got
right
a
now.
lot of demands this year on our numbers, right? I mean, so we're looking like we may be going to an override. On top of that, this could be, on top of that, basically. So that's going to be the problem, I think.
Yeah,
It's
no, I
it's
just,
a
I'll go
lot.
back and tell them, we all think it's a great program, but
Not this
maybe
year.
not this year, right? Would that
Is
be-
there a set number of households?
Up-
that can't
Up to
rise?
14.
Okay.
And there is money in CPC to support it this year, but the concern, it would be too much of the CPC budget.
Well, there's money, we do have the money to vote for, to
'Cause the
support this year because it rolls
65% you
back,
said is
but
kinda-
if we go up to $500, and from what I understand, only Wendy and the chair of the housing board had actually had this conversation because the housing board member did not even know this was coming at CPC.
Okay.
So if we said, we think this year we should keep it at 250 and not try to increase it this year, because you don't know, there might be property on Hill Road that comes up that people are going to want to buy, right? So, or anywhere else in town, but
Maybe like a modest increase would show that I take the program seriously and
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
that there's movement in that direction and
yeah, we could do that. We
kind
could
of
go
a
up to
promise that
300
it'll
or
Continue
something.
over time once we get everything else in order.
So what you're saying, going up in percentage terms, but make it 1.5%, you're saying?
No, I don't think increase the percentage. You weren't talking about increasing the percentage, you're talking about increasing the amount of the,
Using
From
the
within
existing
CPC.
CPC money.
But
to
you're
increase-
saying there's not enough money in the coffers to do
not
that?
if we continue to do it, not if we do it up to $500.
Okay,
What we've been doing, we've got money for.
okay.
It's if we want to increase it, then it
And it
takes a
could be
big
increased a
bite.
bit within the current
It
constraints.
fits, what they've been doing fits within the current number.
Yeah.
It's just if they want to increase it, then it becomes, I mean, it's not that we can't do it, it's just it's going to take a big chunk of it,
It'll take
Yeah.
a big chunk of the unrestricted funds.
unrestricted funds.
Yeah.
Right, so they get their 10% bucket, but
Yeah.
it'll be additional funds.
Yeah. Kishaba, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think with Maria, we should just leave it at 1% and then decide later, once we have an idea about our budget
Yeah.
for FY26.
So you're thinking, Maria, that we should make it a budget line item then, or?
No, I think this isn't the year to increase it.
Okay.
I'm concerned about two things about making it a budget line item. I think Becky's right. If budgets get tight,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to cut somewhere.
Yeah.
And when you get in that program, you think you get a 3-year
Yeah.
commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and it's a rolling 3-year commitment.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like, we don't really know how many people are in this 3-year, right? The other thing I want to be careful about is, because I've had people, when CPC does their report, and they mention the rental assistance, I've had people make comments to me like, we're paying people's rent. I'm like, no, we're not paying people's rent. But you want to be careful, because you don't want that to be an issue on town floor and have rude comments be made. Right now, it's done kind of within the Housing Board, it's done within CPC, it's a little bit more insulated, because people can get, you know how people can get,
Oh, it shows the autistic family and town meeting and the school budget 20 years ago.
I mean, yeah, so I would be concerned about that, especially in a year where we've got so many demands on the taxpayers coming up, that, then you get somebody who might not care normally, but this year, I'm gonna be cranky, because guess what? My taxes are going up this much, and no one's paying my rent.
So I'm going to pull that budget out, and then I'm going to, because I can pull it out and amend it, right? And so then you've
Right.
got people who are counting on that money and they're not going to have it.
So, that's,
Becky, just a quick question. Is that 10% allocation fixed? Can it not go any higher?
I only just recently learned this, but it can go higher, but they can go higher. They could say, we want to, fund housing at 15%, but at least it won't be 25%, it wouldn't take 25% of the total budget. Or they could increase all of the budgets, but to 15, 15, and 15, so they have 45% earmarked, and then 5% for administrative, and so then they'd have 50% for unrestricted. But haven't discussed that, so I don't know, John. I mean, that's within their purview, and they could certainly do that.
10% is the state minimum. It has to be
10% is the state minimum, but they could say 15% across the board if they want. I actually think they can choose to change different buckets too, so that some
So it
buckets
sounds
get-
like we're saying we don't really support this.
Not this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not
This year.
Okay, that's fine. I will take that back.
Yeah, okay. Okay, next topic is just organisation. Annual report is due on January the 6th this year. It's been brought forward. So normally the annual report is like all the budget stuff, right? I mean, that's what we wrote last year in the annual report.
No, the chair of the FinCom usually writes
Well,
it.
I know the chair of FinCom writes it, but last year's annual report was based on the budget.
but it was based on, so the annual report is for FY '24.
It's for
Right.
calendar year
It's-
24. It's
calendar
calendar
year.
year
So
24.
the year that's ending
It's for
this December.
It's for the calendar year
for that
24.
previous
Right, so
year.
the budget information that was in there, so for last year, we were in FY '24, the budget information we had in there, the statistical information was FY '23. Because you can't, we don't run on a calendar year.
No, but last year's report, we put in stuff about the budget for FY '24. That's what it said in the report. It talked all about the budget issues and what's in the budget.
For FY '24?
Yeah.
But I turned that into Kelly in January.
No, we did it later than that.
You're-
We did when-
No, I think you're thinking about the back of the warrant
It's the
article.
same thing. It's the same.
No, it's not
No,
the same
It's
thing.
different. There's an annual report that Gary's written and basically takes the years before.
And then I
Yeah.
just took it, and I just took what Gary did
And
and
updated it.
just judged it a little bit, and then Maria,
Yeah.
updated a little bit, and
So there's, I mean, I have it, I can email it to you.
Yeah.
So, and I think, Gary, yes or no, you don't need a microphone for this, it's based on last year's, it would be based, this year's would be based on '24's budget.
Right,
Right, the '24 fiscal year.
yes.
So the information in there is based on the year after, yeah. So,
Okay.
Now, when you're writing it, you gotta make sure you remember it's calendar year,
Yeah.
not fiscal year.
Okay.
Whereas Tony, what's in the warrant is the fiscal year report.
Right.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but you're both saying calendar year and fiscal year. Okay, those are not the same.
they are not the same.
So which one?
So for
it-
what we do, for the annual report is for the year of 2024.
So that's an
That's a
annual
calendar year.
calendar year.
We can't do that. So we just base it on the fiscal year, because FinCom
The last fiscal
it
year.
presents and we report what we did in the last fiscal year.
Okay,
Okay.
so you're reporting on a year that ended 6 months prior?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
I can do
There's
that.
and there's nothing we can do about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we can't report on what we're doing in the first 6 months because we haven't done anything. So, I mean, it's not like we're the AdCom that we can say that, you
No,
know.
I understand that, but you keep saying calendar year, so we shouldn't be using that term at all.
So,
I've never used that term. That was just what was used tonight, but
Sorry to whoever said that.
yeah.
No offense,
And
I'm just trying to clear it up.
I use the term, but I mean, but what I'm hearing is this will be a report of what actually happened in fiscal year 24.
Yes.
The budget was X, we actually spent
Yes.
Y.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And I will find the one I did that has been pretty much the same year over year over year, and we
Okay.
just changed the numbers up.
Because almost
Okay.
nobody reads the annual report.
Okay, I will take on the action to write that then and
You
bring
do?
it back to
So does-
FinCom to
Yes.
review.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any committee reports?
I have committee reports. So I'll start with the easy one. COA is doing their Charlie card, thing.
For seniors,
For seniors, right. Well, I was going to get to that. So on Monday, the 21st, I think it is,
Yeah.
at 1:30, they are having an event, and it's half price, right, Becky?
gives you half price. when
Yeah,
you
half
You get a
price
senior Charlie card.
Charlie card, you need to be 65. You come to the community center, we have to take pictures of licenses and all of that, and you'll get your Charlie card, and it's good for a
I
certain
think
amount
like
of
8
time.
years. It's a weird
Yeah.
number.
We did it last year, or 2 years ago, and it was very successful. And so we already had, I think, when I talked to Bill yesterday, he said like 12 people signed up, but he didn't know how many more had been signed up from the week. That was the last number he had had. So that is happening this upcoming Monday. For more information, go to the COA webpage, or call Kim, or just stop by the community center at 1:30. And then the Fire Station Building Committee. So we did a walkthrough, and by we, I mean Mike and the crew, did a walkthrough on 72 Stowe Road. We had a really good turnout. It was audio recorded so that we could get the questions, so that we could start an FAQ. Really good questions asked. I listened to it until it ran out. And that the questions, a lot of those questions are going to be the beginning of our FAQ document that we're starting. We're starting forums this week and the forums are going to be subject-based. So this week's forums, we have 4 of them. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., tomorrow at 7 p.m., and both of those are at the library. The 22nd will be a Zoom forum, and you can get that link on our webpage. And we're advertising too, so I don't know I think the link is on the town social media page and stuff. And the 23rd is in person again at the library. The subject of this series of forums is the programming, also known as, in lay terms, space needs. So the fire chief will be presenting the programming on that, and we'll talk that through. There'll be a question and answer period after that. We've allotted about a half an hour for each subject. We have a short presentation on site selection, and there'll be questions and answers after that. The sites right now, we've eliminated 975 Mass Ave was added, but when Mike went and had a conversation. Initially, we knew that there was a lot of ledge, so the site work was going to be expensive because it would be blasting. But the property itself, a number of years ago, when the original building committee talked to the owner of the property, was very inexpensive. It was like $160,000. So we are going to look at it and see if we could justify the total purchase and the site work. Well, the new owner who bought it for $160,000 said that I believe he was starting at $3.5 million for a purchase price. And this property is straight uphill. So it's 2 doors down from DPW. He owns the property next to DPW. He developed that. But there was a ton of blasting. There's also a creek that runs around the front of it. There's some wetlands. So we voted last week to eliminate that from the running. So that's no longer one of the sites. So we have the current site. We have 700 Mass Ave, which is where the Enclave construction road is.
Where that blue house is.
Huh?
Where
The
that blue house
yep.
is.
And 72 Stowe Road. And those are the 3 that are still on the list. And we'll be discussing, the process that we're using to do the site selection. So, and that's for our forums starting tomorrow.
Okay. Anybody else got committee reports?
I'll just tell you, EDC met last week, and they, I think, awarded 2 more grants. Another one to Two Friends Chocolates. They're doing something else. And then there's a lady who wants to open a coffee and pastry shop in that same shopping center with the bank and then turn it into a wine and cheese thing at night, which I'm very excited about. I know. So I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Unless, do you want to hear about this Budget Skeptic Forum?
We should,
The budget what?
Or do you want to wait? You know the thing we all got invited to, like
Oh,
focus group?
right.
Or do you want to wait?
No, let's do it now. Get it out of the
Okay,
way.
well, I'm going to read to you what I read at the school committee meeting on Thursday
okay, and then
night.
I have some comments to make as well.
So, I was a member of the Budget Skeptics Forum group held by the consultant you hired to find the budget structural changes that will make the school operating budget more affordable to the towns. It was hosted last Wednesday, which was actually 2 Wednesdays ago now. And it was me and 4 other members of the Acton-Boxborough communities. The superintendent in his email specifically called it a focus group for budget skeptics. It started with introductions, and then David James, the consultant, asked the 5 of us what we thought the elementary schools did well and what could be done to improve them. At which point the 5 of us community members were confused. None of us have elementary-age students. In fact, my children are 35, 36, and 37, but it was also clear that David James was also confused. Since it appears that our opinion on budget changes was not the purpose of the focus group, I would like to take the time now to let the school committee and school administration know how this budget skeptic feels. I feel the school district needs to make structural changes to the operational budget because Boxborough can certainly not afford a double-digit increase every year. It does not appear that the consultant has been charged with looking at how to make structural changes you touted last year during the budgeting process. I think I can safely say we were all really angry because once again, the school committee and administration say one thing, we're going to hire a consultant to look at structural changes, which is costing the district $150,000, and then you do something else. You hire a consultant to look at ways to improve the elementary schools, which means spending more money, not making necessary cuts. It feels for me, and dare I say all of us, that the superintendent can now say the budget skeptics participated in the focus group, box ticked. Without meaningful structural changes to the way the school district operates and budgets, you will continue to spend more than the 2 towns can afford. I would think that when you pay a superintendent of schools $285,000, he should be able to do the analysis and make the recommendations to the board. In closing, I would like to say that if the school committee and school administration cannot live up to the promise to the taxpayers to find the savings that will help mitigate the budget increase, I will work hard against any operational override in Boxborough. So that's what I said.
So I don't have a statement. All of that, and I am so terribly disappointed that after everything that we talked about, all of last year, and this increase that the town had to absorb, and we're going to make changes, and we're going to look at these changes, and we're going to look at this, and it may not happen when we understood, it may not happen in 1 year. I'm so terribly disappointed that it was clear that that consultant was not there to talk about budget. He was stuttering. He didn't know what to say. He was stuttering not because he stuttered, but because he was dumbfounded. He was confused and then quickly pivoted and said, no, we really want to hear what you have to say. I mean, I'm angry because, we asked, I didn't believe half of what was told to us last year, but okay, we're going to give it a try. This is a different school committee, different administration. And just, you clearly, the school committee is not taking the concerns, or this is at least how I feel, that you're not taking the concerns of the towns seriously, or at least this FinCom member. I will not support an override that we're pushed into because of the schools. I will not support the type of increase from the schools that we had last year. And it's fine because I'm only one person, so the rest of you can support it. But they promised they were going to try to make structural changes. And I'm just not seeing that. And that focus group was 45 minutes that I'll never get back, that wasted my time. We had one father it was like, I'm out of here, I'm done. He was so angry. And because it was just obvious that was not what it was about. So I'm just really terribly disappointed, and whatever little trust I had in what was coming from the administration is gone for me. So it's going to be a long climb to get back to a point where I really have any faith in anything that's coming from the school district.
Do you have any comments, Adam, at all?
I don't think I've got any comments at this point.
No,
This is the first time I've heard Maria's feedback, so
Yeah.
I think we'll have opportunities to clarify that more. Actually, Mike, I'll say one thing, which is I appreciate the feedback, and there is an opportunity throughout the work that the budget task force is doing to provide additional feedback to them. So I'm sorry that you felt like that session was a waste of time. I hope you don't disengage completely, because we reached out because your input is important to us. And so if you continue to have input, if you want to, connect or just we'll send you the updates from what that task force is doing and give us the feedback on that. I just hope that you're not so upset that you're disconnected from the process, because we want to do good.
But Adam, when he starts off with, what do you think the elementary schools are doing well and what can we do better? That doesn't sound to me like, what kind of changes do you think need to happen to make structural stuff happen? I mean, clearly, these were all people who sat in on lots of budget stuff last year.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not engaged in what the day-to-day tasks of that task force and that consultant. The charge that the committee gave to the task force was to look at the elementary budgets. It's 50% of our student population. It is one of the more complex parts of the district that we need to look at. We don't have the time, energy, money, resources to look at the entire process all at once. We have plans to look at elementary, special education, secondary. We have to look at all of those things. We understand that. This was the charge was look at the elementaries, understand how we can find improvements there. And I think from what we understood from the consultant, and one of the things that I really liked about him is that structural changes and budget cuts cannot and should not mean a loss of services or quality of education, and it can't be done sort of on the backs of our staff. And so the process has to be inclusive, including people who are skeptics, including people who are in the classroom every day. And my hope is that the consultants will come back and say, here's what all the constituents said, here's a path to having a more sustainable budget.
What's the timeline for this guy? Like, are we going to have something for this
December
budget year?
19th, they have to present to the school committee. Yeah, there's a short timeline, because the point is we need some information to move forward for this year's or next year's budget, this year's budget planning.
Okay, so with that, let's move on to this budget workshop, which is really the sort of first step in our budget process. And this was initiated because Adam reached out to me to see whether we could start to think about how we work together as we put together the town budget and the school budget, but obviously are very closely interlinked, and thinking about what is the guidance we will be giving to the school from the town about the budget for FY26. So what I've got here is really sort of a first model, if you like, of what the budget might look like, with with many very early assumptions in there that I think we should look at and perhaps test, and gives us a sense, I think, of where we might be as we move closer to a budget. So I'm looking at our usual things: expenses, revenues, reserves, We have capital spending. We have the fire station coming online potentially, and then from the school side there are other budget drivers. And we heard some numbers last year about what the budget numbers might look like for the school this year. So I plugged in what I heard there into this model. There's also obviously all other factors like the assessment is not the same as the budget increase for the school, based on school enrolment in Boxborough versus Acton. So we can perhaps look at some of those things as well, and then looking at what this might look like in terms of potential overrides, potential debt exclusions. How do we use our reserves and things like that.
Can I ask, do we have October 1st numbers yet?
I just got them from Sherry this afternoon. They're not official because she was at a funeral all day, but I have the breakdown, and I know what the split is for next year, or
Okay.
for budget planning
Can
purposes.
you just tell me what the total enrollment is for next year?
No. All I have are the 2%.
Oh, okay.
For
All
the
right.
for the table 6 information.
So one thing we know is we know now the calendar for the budget. So I mean the Boxwood Town budget and the Acton Boxwood Regional School District budget are working in parallel. I think the school budget is somewhat ahead of ours in many ways in terms of putting together guidelines and content for that budget. So that's going to be a factor I think to be thinking about. But we need to perhaps be able to give some guidance early on in this process. So we talked about when Adam and Mike and Chris and I met about understand the terminology that we will be using as we go through this process with the town. So this is going to be partly, I think, an educational process for the town to understand what our constraints are, how we actually are going to work within those constraints. So there's a series of videos that are on the this state website that we can use for that. These are all here. They're linked in this presentation. There's a number of definitions here which we can sort of start to put together, I think, and have as a glossary of terms as we go through these discussions with the town, so people know what we're talking about in terms of our levy ceiling and what we can increase the levy by, and those things. Debt exclusions, new growth. But but really, what we need to be thinking about is I think where do we look in terms of a model. So this is my first pass at a model based on assumptions that I have right now. So and I can go through these line by line, what my assumptions are, what the supporting data for that is, and we can discuss whether they are accurate or not. So and this model gets us to a tax number which is above the levy ceiling, actually, but the levy limit. So that's the bad news on this, I guess, based on the assumptions I'm making.
So the capital items, did you get that off the capital?
That's from the capital spending plan, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Which includes 1.5 million for fire station land purchase.
Okay, that's in that number?
In that number, yeah.
Okay, and so this is the problem with doing this so early, because we haven't even talked about that, right? That may not be this year. That's probably more likely because it's going to be part of the funding of the total building, but we haven't even discussed that. So that might be closer to 4.5 million, or 4.4 million. And then the bonding, the $1 million bonding. Did you just take a guess? I'm just trying to understand where these numbers came from. Did you make an assumption on the bonding?
That's our previous. Yes, that's our previous bonding, I think. Yeah.
So that wasn't based on what was in that capital report? In the capital, right?
That is, and that's an assumption that what we would borrow, I think, for that capital report. So yeah, so I assume that we wouldn't borrow all of that money for capital. $1 million would be bonded. That's my working assumption.
Okay. But we don't know that.
We don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then further down in your slides, you've got a 6% increase for the town?
Yes.
Okay. And wow, but we've been really good with the town that has not had a 6% increase over the last 3 years, I don't think. So what made you jump to that?
These are all assumptions to be tested, right? I mean,
Okay.
this is just a
Okay.
model, right?
All right.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that's what it should be. I'm just saying, I'm just testing out assumptions here.
Okay. And then a 9% increase for the school. That's what, that's,
I thought it was 7.
7%.
Oh, 7%.
This is what I put in, 6% for the town and 7% for the school, based on what I heard last year about future projections for the school. Again,
But I heard Adam just say 6, so I think we should definitely knock that back to 6.
That wasn't on Zoom, it doesn't count.
Oh, it is on, so,
No, you are
I'm
on Zoom.
I'm repeating your non-words.
so maybe these are worst case scenarios, right? I mean, so I'm just trying to sort of map out what it looks like with various scenarios, which we can, and this is an Excel spreadsheet. We can change the numbers and see where it turns out, but making different assumptions on that.
Yeah, I'm just having problems with not knowing the basis for where you're coming from for all these assumptions, you know? Maybe if we started with a range for each one of these values, that might be, and I don't want
Yeah.
to throw you off your track here, and I know you're
Right.
trying to put a number out there, but, I can't look at that and get an idea of really where it is, right? Till I know where each component is in its own distribution. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry to.
Sure, yeah, but you put in a range for every parameter. It's going to be a very, very complicated spreadsheet.
Well, town budgets are complicated, right? And that, you get a comfort level for each one of those metrics going in.
But you can plug in the number in the Excel spreadsheet and see what the difference would be.
Tony, no, I understand,
So
I
I can't,
understand.
instead of putting it on a PowerPoint slide, it's going to be very hard
But put
to.
yourself in our shoes.
Right.
We're looking at these numbers for the first time, and
Right.
Maria knows these numbers inside and out,
Yeah.
as you do you, and we're like, we're,
Here's the thing. I mean, I get that you want to target us, right? This is sort of a, target. But here's the thing. If we are in a position where we need to do an override, the town's not going up 6%, because that override is going to include having to look at budgets and say, okay, Mike, where can we sharpen the pencil? Because the town can't have a 6% increase.
Right.
We cannot go to the town with a 6% increase in the town and an additional 7% increase for the school and say, and oh, by the way, your taxes are going up significantly because we're going to go for an override. Because I assume, you got to assume, and I'm also not seeing, where's our levy limit and all of that. I need to.
Well, I can show you
also
that.
for the remedial pace, is that implied in what the numbers that just came out at the bottom?
What?
That there's an override?
That's what Tony just
That's
said.
your,
Yeah, so Tony
yeah.
just
So
said, yeah.
this is the levy limit calculation. So
We have another microphone over
Yeah.
here. You guys can.
Because I started some of this conversation, I wanted to give a little bit of context as well from our side. I think I sat here last year getting grilled about our budget, and one of the commitments I said was, we're going to have Boxborough lead this next year in terms of the budget conversation, because we knew that Boxborough would be in a more difficult situation. And so, as we're sitting on our budget subcommittee and we're starting to put together budget guidelines for the district, and yeah, I think we're a little bit ahead of you guys, I'm raising my hand saying we need to see from Boxborough, we need to hear from Boxborough, what's a reasonable number? What is something that, in a very complicated model, works for the district, so that we're not going back and forth and we're not doing it at last minute. So honestly, I'm here asking for guidance on behalf of the schools for what's a number that is reasonable for us and attainable for the town. And I can provide some context for that as well, right? Becky, you asked what the numbers are in terms of enrollment, because yeah, that clearly drives what our increase would be if nothing else changed. We're still paying a higher percentage increase in our assessment because of that. So, I totally understand, it's early, it's complicated, and I'm not here to tell you guys what the number should be, but what I'm asking for is some guidance early on in our budget process so that we can represent that on the budget subcommittee and the school committee as a whole.
Can I ask you, how many kids were in the system last year? Do you know?
Ooh, I think I have that.
While he's looking that up, Tony, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
My understanding was tonight was about definitions and process. So what I'm assuming is that we're not seeing budget numbers up here. We're seeing kind of a model or a guideline to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I could hang my hat on any of these numbers.
Correct.
But it's showing us a process and helping us to maybe be a month ahead of where we would be otherwise, just looking at what the process is that
Yeah, I
anywhere
mean,
near?
these are the what-if numbers, right? I mean, so you can, in this, you can plug in the numbers. You can say, if our increase in the town was 3%, what would that do to the overall model? Well, you know, if the school budget goes up by 10%, what does that do to the model? So we can do those things with this. I'm not saying that those should be the numbers. I'm just saying we need to understand what the moving parts are and how they impact the bottom line when we get to it. Go ahead, yes, Kristen.
So just to piggyback on Mike, I want to say part of this whole thing is on me because I admitted that last year I felt like I was scrambling to keep up. It was my first year back. I didn't even remember all the definitions. I did a lot of pretending I knew and then I could go home and figure it out kind of a thing. So I said, what if we start by putting together all the definitions? Because some people know everything and some people don't. You know? And it's hard when everyone's sitting here throwing numbers around and making decisions to say, I'm not really sure I understand levy limit. I love that you just said, what's the difference between the calendar year and the fiscal year? That's awesome, because a lot of people wouldn't have done that. It is. So.
I don't think I asked it, but okay.
All right, well,
We allow questions.
All right.
He mentioned the calendar year,
John,
fiscal
John,
year,
you're
so
awesome.
yeah.
So anyway,
Calm down.
sorry, okay, well, I mean, I know you know the difference. Anyway, but to piggyback off it, this was to understand how the model works, so that when we do have our real numbers after Capital Saturday and Budget Saturday, everyone actually knows what they're looking at. So I wouldn't spend any time worrying about what Tony put in there. I would instead say, do I understand why it works, how it works, and what it's going to tell me?
But Adam's saying he needs numbers.
I get that, but we're not ready. We can't give him numbers until after Budget and Capital Saturday.
So I think, for me, it's fair to say to the school, figure it out on our enrollment and stop until we have a better understanding. I mean, we've got to pay for the children that we have going to the school district. We can't not pay that. So what's that increase look like?
I have to throw something out to you guys, just as realtor. We had about 2/3 of the normal sales. So the increase in kids this year, I think the market's going to be crazy next year because we had such a slow real estate market in Acton and Foxborough. I think you have to anticipate after this coming spring, you're going to have a lot more kids because people my age and older are moving, and it's all young families. And I have to tell you, they're all breeding. There's like 3 and 4 and 5 children in every single
They're
one
all
of the families.
breeding? Did you
They're
just say
breeding.
that?
Yeah, they're breeding like crazy. I tell you. No, I've never seen so many big families. But I just want to throw that out there, that I think you have to factor the real estate market into it.
Well, not for this budget.
I've got some numbers
Well,
for you.
no,
okay.
but you have to
This
factor for the
budget's-
kids.
I want to hear what the enrollment.
So I do have the enrollment for this year. Acton is 4,016, and Boxborough is 854. That's 82.46% from Acton and 17.54% from Boxborough. All things being equal, if we had a level budget, no increase to the school budget for next year, Boxborough's assessment would go up by 3.5%.
Okay, that's good.
Wait. So wait. All right, so I'm sorry.
I'll support that,
I'll
Adam.
look for your I'll look for your signature on all of those notices
So wait.
for the teachers who are
So,
getting
I'm
cut.
sorry, 3.5% would be level service.
No, level
Level
budget.
funding.
Zero
Level
increase to
funding.
our budget. Yeah.
Level service,
We don't have a level service budget yet. So I did do numbers for 2 other models. One was a 3% increase on the budget. And we've talked about this before, about the mechanics of the school budget and how it comes down to the assessment. The only thing that changes that is what we get from revenue from the state, and what we get for increase in revenue from the state. We're lucky to get 150 grand from the state. So if we had a 3% budget increase, that's a school budget increase of 3%, the Boxborough assessment would go up by 7.28%. Acton would go up by 2.79%. 6%, the reason I did 6%, said 6%, because that was the other number that I did. So again, for perspective, a 6% increase to the Boxborough assessment. So now we're calculating our budget backwards from an assessment to the town. If Boxborough said we can bear a 6% increase in our assessment, the schools will have to deal with a 1.97% budget increase.
And Adam, how many kids were in the school system last year? I just want to know how many fewer kids we have this coming year.
It looks like 2024, 877.
Altogether? Like for the 877?
Oh,
like-
is Boxborough. We were just shy of 5,000 last year.
Okay, and we're just.
so wait, so 877 last year, and we're down to 854?
870,
We're losing kids?
I think so.
God,
No new families are being.
good.
But remember, it's a 3-year average.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I just was wondering if
Yeah.
that was, if I heard that right. So 6% for Boxborough would be a 1.79% on the budget.
9.7, 1.97% increase for the school
And
budget.
can you, at some point, get us a number for what it is for, based on enrollment? We asked for this number last year.
What do you mean based on enrollment?
So like based on, so I want to know, I want to understand what it costs to send our kids to the region, what that increase would be, based on the increase of kids. But we have a decrease. Oh, but it's the 3-year rolling average.
What you want, a per kid number?
Yeah, can't we just ask for the number and we'll divide by the number of kids we have?
Okay.
So again, John, do you love John for saying that? I do.
Here's the thing. There's a lot of numbers, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, we had this question over and over last year. What does it cost based on enrollment? So forget your budget increase for a second. Like, we have 900 kids that are going to the region. What is the cost for those
Per
900
student.
kids? Per student.
Okay.
Because we got asked that question over and over and over last year, and we never really had an answer. We never got an answer.
I guess,
It's noble, right?
what's the reason behind the question? Like, what are we trying to quantify with that?
If we should find a different region.
No, no.
John's saying no. He just wants to make sure you know that he's not asking.
Just to compare to other school districts, that's all.
Yeah, so that, the problem with comparing with other school districts is the number that we're paying in our assessment, we roll in all of the things that a municipal district might have. We had this conversation last
Yeah, we
year,
did.
and so like, what we could do is we could look at a comparison of what is the DESI number of what we spend per student, and then we could compare that to what you're asking for, which is how much does the town pay for student. But what I'll tell you is that number is going to be higher per student because we're covering insurance and OPEB and all of those ancillary costs and maintenance and facilities that in a municipal
We should be able
district.
to get a comparison of other regions.
Lincoln Sudbury.
Yes, but we-
Groton,
But the
Dunstable.
problem is, I don't want Lincoln Sudbury. I don't want Lincoln Sudbury. I want all the regions, because I want to see Concord, Carlisle, and Lincoln Sudbury are going to have
Yeah.
the same tax issue.
DESI has that for all of the
Yeah,
regions.
that's all, it's
I
all
want to
online.
know about other regions that maybe, the towns are like not, they don't have
Like
the wealth
Neshoba.
factor.
Can I ask,
Which
can I
is
just ask a few
Whitman
questions?
Hanson.
Okay.
All of
So,
them.
2 questions. So, 2, cost per pupil. The Boxborough cost per pupil is the same as Acton's?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You said originally that would be like if we did a 3.5%, that was a level budget.
Level
increase.
funded.
Level funded.
level
increase.
funded.
Yeah.
So what's the delta between level funded, and excuse my ignorance on this, I'm just getting up to speed, and level service? So what is?
So the level service includes all of those cost drivers that increase every year. And our biggest is going to be our staffing cost, which is our cost of contract, which is not just the COLA,
Okay,
but
I'm
it's
sorry.
COLAs, steps, lanes,
brain.
all of that.
Okay, copy.
And that typically comes in at 5 to 6% increase. So the
So you
biggest
got- you got
portion.
a 5%
Hold on one
increase
second. So
last year, right, John?
If it's level funded, what's the delta there? What's the change there?
There is none. So that's, the reason I shared that was
So
to
it's the
say,
same number as
if
last
nothing
year.
changes, like if we spend the same amount
Okay.
next year as we did this year, Boxborough still has to pay more. So like that, the increase of students that we're seeing from Boxborough over the rolling 3 years means that Boxborough's share gets larger. So on top, so what I'm saying is, if we spend no more at the district, Boxborough already has a 3.5% increase in their assessment. And so if you were to come to me and say, Adam, the town can handle a 4% assessment increase, I'm going to say to you, that's another $1 million on our budget, and that's it. And that's less than a % increase for the schools. That's kind of the point of reference that I'm trying to give you
And
is.
that's actually what I was sort of trying to figure out is, what did it cost us last year? And what is it? So it's a 3.5% increase.
We just had another member of the board come in, they just need to call their meeting to order.
Thank you. I was going to do a point of order, but I was waiting for a good break. Thank you, Mike. All right, I'd like to call the select board meeting to order. It is Tuesday, October 15th, and it is 8:04 PM. Because one of us is attending via Zoom, we'll just do a quick roll call vote, I think? Or is it just,
Yeah.
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 Priya? Hold on, I just unmuted her.
All right, present. I think Dave is also on.
Dave's right
actually
here.
Oh, Dave.
He's both. He's hybrid.
No, I can't see any of you guys, so that's why.
All right, roll call vote.
Issues on the slate.
Priya, roll call vote.
Present.
Bob.
Simple,
And Hilbert present. Thank you for your patience.
Can I ask, you guys aren't negotiating this year, right?
Next year.
Next year, but the town is negotiating this year, correct?
Yes. We have-
So another reason not to say how much money we have right away.
Well, and that is, yeah, I was gonna mention that. Maybe, yeah, later. We gotta be careful in what we're modeling, because we are, we can't just say, well, we're gonna put in a 7% increase for the town, because first of all, hasn't been realistic over the course of the last number of years. And we are going into negotiation, and we don't, so to be clear, that number has no basis in reality right now. So for all the unions that are watching, which my understanding is they watch, that 7% increase for the town has no basis in reality. It is just a number that was picked, because we don't want people to think we can afford that, and that's what we're going up.
This is just modeling.
Yes,
Yeah.
just modeling.
So we all
Really
understand what
important.
the model is doing, what it says, and then you can, yeah. These numbers don't mean anything yet.
Yeah, we all know that. I want to make sure that those.
These
people
numbers mean
outside the room-
nothing right now.
But when does Adam need to have some guidance?
Yeah, that's the question. How can we help Adam
Without giving him a
in this
number.
process?
You can give me a range, first of all. And we are reading our draft budget guidelines next week, and we're voting budget guidelines on the 21st of November. And I will tell you, the budget guideline right now says 3% budget increase, no greater than 3%, is what our guideline is. That's got no input from ALG or Boxborough Finance, Boxborough Select Board, and that's why I'm here, because it's in about a month's time, we're going to want to vote those guidelines and then have the administration start to build their budget. And I want us to have a voice in advance of that.
So a 3% increase in the school budget would basically be a 7.28% increase to the Boxborough budget.
Yes.
And
To
I'm-
us, school budget, yeah.
yeah, to us. So what's a 2.5% increase to the school budget look like?
I have to hunt and peck in the,
How about you just round to the whole 2%, so instead of halves, we can do,
what's the question again? Sorry.
2%,
Model
2.5% increase.
2.5%.
Because again, we're allowed to, prop 2.5 and all of that. So what does that look like for a Boxborough assessment?
Give me just a sec.
I don't know if Priya's hand is up again, or if she just didn't take it down, but Priya's hand is up.
No, it's up.
Well, you want to let her talk?
I had a question. I have a question.
Go ahead, Priya.
All right. So the 3.5% is for level funding. I just want to make sure that I understand everything clearly. The 6% was a model that Adam was talking to us about, working backwards, which means it'll be 1.9 million increase in the school budget. That's the max.
1.79%.
9.7.
9.7%.
Round it up to 2%.
So that's a 2% increase, not dollar amount.
Okay, 1.97% increase.
Yep.
And then the third one is if they went with the 3% increase in the overall school, and that's for Boxborough, it'll be 7.28.
Right.
Did I understand that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. A 2.5% school budget increase is a 6.67% increase to the town of Boxborough.
What's it take it to get us under 6%?
Well, 6% is going to be a 2% increase to the school budget,
Okay.
Yeah.
because that's going to be a 6% increase to us.
I would just like to see it be under 6. I'd actually like to see us be under 5, but I realize that might be unrealistic. Well, not with Supermax.
Without any kind of structural changes to the budget, we're not going to get under the whatever number you want to get under.
Yeah,
And
we have no
with the
idea
health-
what we have room for.
And I guess, if you're not going to have anything till December 19th from the consultant, how are you going to come up with budget guidelines? Because presumably that will drive a lot.
So the budget guidelines include, let me see here. because I have them in front of me. Our budget guidelines that are draft right now first say we need to make sure we're covering social, emotional, behavioral well-being, academic needs, multilingual needs, special education. And then we say an overall budget increase of no greater than 3%. And there's a very big star here that says 3% off the budget that was voted at town meeting, not the one that was increased midsummer in response to everybody's feedback, and 0% or $0 use of excess and deficiency funds this year. We need to up our capital funding to ensure that we're meeting our necessary facility needs. We need to be planning for cost of contract. We aspirationally want to reduce kindergarten tuition. Budget for general education class sizes that are within the school committee guidelines, and make sure that the administration gives us reason why we're out of that, either lower or greater than those guidelines. The second to last bullet is incorporate prioritized recommendations from the budget task force, and then the last bullet is to utilize staff attrition whenever possible to reduce our staffing levels.
So the second to last bullet is your structural changes component?
The second to last bullet is taking the recommendations from the elementary budget task force.
Right, but we asked for structural changes a year ago.
Yeah, and what we said is we're going to look into it, and we don't have the capacity capability to derive structural changes, and that's why we've got the consultant. The charge to the consultant was look at the elementary budget.
Problem I have with that is that you've taken closing Conan off the table, you've taken changing the, going back to a two-tier busing off the table, because you're just looking at elementary school. So, you know, you're not, the two-tier, we went to one tier and then we changed the time of the schools, yada, yada, yada. So you've taken some of the big things that would have made big differences right off the table before, and now we're just looking at the elementary school budget. We're not looking at the high school and the junior high budgets. So, you know, you're looking at 50% of your budget to do a reduction and structural changes. So that's
structural changes, I'm struggling with what is structural change.
Like closing a school, or getting rid of the one-tier busing for two-tier busing like they used to have. What were some of the other ones? You had like 4. I had them printed out when we had the thing. There were 2 more. Hold on.
So
getting rid of choice.
Transportation is
Getting rid of
definitely
choice is huge.
on the table to be looked at. The Conant one was considered and was taken off the table because it was $1.5 million in savings, which in the big scheme of things, it was $1.5 million in savings and a significant disruption to every student at the elementary level. And that one just made no sense to the committee. But transportation's definitely on there. Start times, all of those things are being considered. Transportation becomes a challenging one because anywhere between 60 to 75% of our transportation costs are reimbursed to us. So then the real savings in taking 4 buses offline isn't significant. I would argue it's not structural. So, you know, there are plenty of things that are on the table. There's plenty of things that group is looking at. Our largest cost driver is our staff, and we have to find a way to manage the staff, but do it in a way that doesn't create conflict with the staff.
Here's the thing, Adam, is like, you know, you kept cutting assistants. We're going to cut staff. We're cutting so many full-time equivalents. But then you take teachers who are incredibly good teachers and make them these coaches. Now, we hire good teachers. And from what we heard at the budget forum focus group, we heard is a lot of these coaches don't do a lot. I've heard that from people I've gone out to retirement parties with. Most of the coaches like sit in their offices and send emails. They're not teaching the kids, and you're taking the best people. Now, maybe you don't want to lose them, so you make them sort of middle management, and you make them a teacher coach. But it's like, so you say we're cutting things, but then you increase like a whole level of staffing. I don't understand.
I hope you gave that feedback to the consultants, because I think
did.
that would be useful. I want to sort of bring us back here. I think the best thing that you guys can do for us is give us the number, because I guess my question would be, if we can hit a number that works for the town, clearly we want to do it in the best way possible for the outcomes for our students, and I would hope that you could trust the committee and the administration to make that if we hit the number. And what I'm looking for now is a range, and what I've said is our guidelines right now say 3%, and if this committee and the select board over the next month can take some time, think about that, and come back to us with a range, with a number, something like that, that's something for us to go work with. And then we can figure out through the recommendations of the task force, through the guidelines that the school committee puts in place and with our working with the administration, how we get to that number. And I just want to reiterate, like, this is Boxborough's chance to lead this and to take the, to have your voice heard in how the budget works. Because I recognize for the past many years, we're just like, oh, Acton says 3%, Acton says this. Acton is, they have a voice too, but we're specifically coming to you asking, what is the recommendation, what's the request from the town of Boxborough, knowing the situation that we're in, knowing that we need a firehouse, knowing that we may or may not need an override, knowing all of these things that Tony's put on the spreadsheet. I'm really just asking for guidance, and I understand I'm asking it sooner than usual, but that's how it has to work with our schedule and what we need to do so that we can present something and then bring it back to you guys.
So we can model that out. I mean, we can do that now, we can do it later, we can understand all the parameters. I mean, if you don't need it right now, Adam, we can do that at a later meeting here.
They need it by what, November something, you said, right?
Yeah.
November 21st is when we vote the guidelines.
And, and to your point, John, there are different scenarios for each parameter, so we can model through what
Sure.
they look like.
Yeah.
And see how it impacts the final number.
That's a
and
model.
see where we want to be in terms of.
I just think we need to, as we model this, we got to have some idea what the town's thinking. That we just can't do this.
What do you mean? What the town's thinking?
For a budget?
For a budget, we cannot do the school in isolation, because right now, as I look at this, I'm thinking a 2% overall increase in the school operating budget is 6% for Boxborough, that we may be able to then deal with an increase for the town, right, at 6%.
Yeah.
Last year, Mike was able to find, year over year, he's been able to find savings. I think you're probably tapped out on your major savings because we've consolidated and done and done and done. But yeah, but like last year, I mean, the increase was it was nominal,
it was
right?
nominal. Yeah.
And so, without having some idea of what the town's going to do, I'm thinking a 2% increase in the school budget, because that gives us some level to be able to go up.
Yeah, when we can look at the town as well and say what are our assumptions here. I mean, obviously there's some big things that changed last year. Dispatch went away and things like that, which we won't have again this year. Although it's not not in the budget next year.
But also Acton, when they do it, the school's one warrant article,
Yeah.
and the town budget's another warrant article, right? We have it all part as Article 5. So, because I was having people text me last year and say, okay, how can somebody in Boxborough object to the town budget? The school budget. I said, well, they have to pull it out. And so it's the same thing, it's hard for somebody to object, because it's an assessment. So it's not like they can say, oh, well, we don't want to pay for this in the police department or this in the library. So it's just a bottom line. So they can put it wherever they want, right? Clearly, they found money for this, consultant, that they didn't have any money last year, and that's 2 teachers worth of people. So it's hard.
Yeah, and there's a couple of bright spots, right? So last year we didn't spend $1.5 million in our town budget. So that money went back into free cash. So we have free cash, which we have potentially available. I know we're skeptical about the number, but I mean we have $3 million in free cash. So these all would help in terms of making the overall assessment work for the town.
But here's the thing, we shouldn't be using free cash to pay the operating budget. We should be using it for one-time things.
Well, it's used to balance the budget, isn't it? But it goes into capital items.
Yes, it goes into the overall,
the
overall spending for the year,
Yeah,
the fiscal year, for the planning.
So there's some upsides here, I think, that we can look at. That's what I'm saying.
I love
I'll
the
be
fact that we're doing
pessimist.
this, because if you can tell Mike and all the other department heads, listen, if we want to avoid an override, it's this percent. Get yourself to there. If we think we can tolerate an override, we'll have some space. But I think doing it this early is brilliant.
But I think last year we did a huge tax increase, and it was like override size, right? And Mike had, some really big structural changes. Hopefully we see some of the change to Maya help us this year. It should certainly help. I mean, I would think that would help the schools, because they're not dealing with Acton Health Insurance Trust anymore. But there are changes like that we're not going to continue. We can't continue to whittle away at things. I mean, or
there's
else
not much out left to
else we become
consolidate.
a county form of government or something.
When you mention, we have to know what the town side is doing, I think between now and the third week of November, this gives us a chance. I can get input from the department heads and start working the town side, and we can start seeing where that balance comes in. Speaking of Maya, though, we expected an increase, because they came in at really good numbers, all the insurance companies that came in with us, all two of them. We knew they came in with good numbers in the first year. We knew we were going to see an increase in the second year. We're already seeing that. We just got the numbers today for the retirees, and we got those earlier because those happen on the first of the calendar year, whereas we won't see the employee numbers come in until the first of the fiscal year, 6 months later. But we know we're going to see increases there, but still not to the level of exponential increases that we were seeing with the health network we were with. So that's better news, but we're not going to come in flat like we did last year on Maya. It's going to be a little bit of an increase. But I think over the next, I think you said November 21st, between now and then, I think we can start working this model and start seeing, where we can flex and what we can do to be able to work both the town and the school and, and service the community.
So we have one meeting in
Where are we
November.
with the school insurance?
The what?
The school insurance.
School.
With, not the school, the teacher's insurance, like with their health insurance.
The medical, right?
Yes,
Yep.
so the schools went to Maya as well, and we still had some run-out claims to pay from Acton Health. The majority of those have been paid. We'll get an update at our next meeting on that. I believe, and I'll have to confirm with the folks at the district, but I believe when we locked in our rates with Maya, it was for 2 years. So our insurance rate should be flat for next year.
For a certain amount of time, right? Like we were paying all the difference.
The claims.
Yeah. Oh, is it just for the claims, or was it like the difference in the amount? I don't remember that. Which one it was?
Can you say the question again?
I thought the towns were paying all the individual teachers in terms of was it the claim amount, or was it the difference?
Yeah, so
in
the way the Acton Health Insurance Trust was structured was that we were self-insured, which meant that we had to carry enough in our reserves to be able to cover the actual claims. With Maya, we're not self-insured. We pay into the whole pool, and Maya manages that. So we're not as susceptible to large swings if we've got a big claim base in a year, but that may raise our rates for the following
Except
year.
last year, when all of a sudden you needed more money for the health insurance trust, and you came back to the towns for more money, you covered the teachers, so they didn't have to take.
That's what I'm asking about.
That's what Priya's talking
Yeah,
about.
that's what Priya's talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a one-time thing.
That's okay. All right.
So here's homework for the FinCom then. So everyone's got the model I've just sent out this afternoon on the Excel spreadsheet. So the green tabs are the model. This is based on the financial model we used for the budgeting last year, actually.
This is the same model as last year's?
It's based on that. So it's actually a simplified version of that. So the overview is really rolls all together. It gives you the tax number. The levy limit calculator tells you what the levy limit is. It's also, it's somewhat estimated this next year. We don't know what it's going to be, but we know roughly where it's going to be in terms of the increase year on year. We can put in there excluded debt and stuff like that, but this is pretty close, I think. And it will tell you what the tax rate will be if we put how much you plug in there.
Going up to line 9 where you got new growth, just as a starter, that number's too high. You probably need to start about 200,000.
Right.
It's normally things going up, but with the finish of the enclave and some of the other development, we're going to see new growth go down this year, and I'm going to use 200 as my estimating starting in.
Tony, have you locked out, just so we don't get into a spreadsheet nightmare next week, have you locked out all the cells we shouldn't change?
I have not done that. I guess we should do that.
I would highly, I can help you with that.
I can resend it with bits you can't change. Okay, yeah. So operating budget assumptions for the town and for the school district.
And these are the assumptions you had in that.
These are my
that show.
assumptions. Change them however you want to. Other costs. But, this is somewhat based on last year's budget, basically. Capital spending, which is based on the capital budget. So
Can I ask, has the capital committee met?
it's meeting soon, isn't it? I think
Okay.
November.
The annual capital, budget letter went out to committee chairs and department heads earlier today, and then they'll be sending in their department and committee capital requests by the 1st of December. What Tony has up there is rolled up everything that's over the 20-year plan.
Right.
And we know a few things will fall off of there, a few things will come on, but that's in general what we're looking at right now.
Right.
Are we buying another fire engine?
There's another fire engine on. The problem with fire engine is that it is a 3-year delivery window.
Oh, right.
And we need to, so we would fund it, if we voted it at town meeting, we wouldn't bond it for 3 years, but they need to have the budget bonding approval from town meeting to put the order in.
I guess it just seems to me that if the fire department, because they're going for a building probably, could look at flipping FY '26 and FY '27, it might go a long way in terms of because I'm looking
Yeah.
FY '27 is only 240,000. So.
Right. As I was looking this over today, I was going to be talking with the fire chief as well as the DPW director, because we've also got a $230,000 dump truck on there. With same issue with the fire trucks, 2 to 3 year delay on getting them, and we don't need it right away, and we won't pay for it right away, but we do need to get it on order. But I'll be talking with both of them tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm not hopeful that they're gonna wanna switch that, because when I talked to the chief, he said that they did $60,000 in repairs on this engine so far this year.
Oh.
Maybe this calendar year, this fiscal year, I'm not sure, but they've done $60,000, and there's more to come.
And maybe you
So-
tell Sean this isn't a good year to redo the inside of the library, because I'm looking, that's obviously what this is too, that's almost $1 million. I mean, it's a huge capital number
It's a big
this year.
year. It's a big year, isn't it, for capital?
Well, maybe we need to rethink some of this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what we do anyway, right?
Well, yeah, but that's part of this exercise. Right? Look at what's in here and what we can move.
Right, so, okay.
Revenues have been going down, I think, mainly from receipts and things over the years. And then free cash, and I'm assuming that we spend down to our minimum again. So we've got 1.7 million we can spend potentially in free cash into the budget.
Right.
So that's the model.
Okay.
I'll send this with some protected cells in it, and we can start looking at it, and we can have a discussion next time about where we think some numbers should be.
So, yeah, just to that question, how many meetings do we have before we are?
Yeah, so we
We have a
have,
meeting in 2 weeks' time, right?
yeah, we have one on the 29th, and then we have one on the 19th. We only have one meeting in November on the 19th.
Might be
Oh, 'cause the
another meeting,
fifth-
quite
because
frankly.
We could always
Election
make another
day.
meeting. We cancelled one because it's the election night.
Yeah, it is the election night.
So we could make one the following week, maybe.
Or we could have one via Zoom. Oh, well, I won't be there because I'm working the election.
Yeah, you and I are both working the election.
Yeah.
So,
We could do it
And it's in the
the
evening at
following week, maybe.
yeah, the 12th?
Yeah.
Do you want to, people available on the 12th?
That's good.
I can make that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something should happen.
I think,
Okay.
okay. So I'm going to put that in my
Okay.
thing, and then,
I'm sorry, and I'm going to sound like even more of a curmudgeon than I usually am. And Adam, I mean, you guys do a hell of a job. You all do. But are we going to let this structural issue thing go here?
I'm not going to let it go. It's early in the
I'm
process, but,
surprised we're kind of quiet here.
well, because Adam tried to bring us back around. So here's what I'll tell you
No,
about
hold on
Conan.
1 second.
Okay.
So are we, anybody else on this? I mean, yeah.
I'm not
Becky,
letting it
I-
go.
All right, I mean, I think we'd be doing you a disservice to not let you know how concerned we are. It seems like the school is kind of they've put a new lens on the situation in terms of the finances. And it's very creative, and I can understand why you'd want to do that, but we're expecting you to use the terminology that we asked you to use last year, right? And you're kind of not doing that.
I guess I would ask for what the FinCom's definition of structural changes are, because I think the semantics are what is sort of holding us up. So, structural changes.
Eliminating choice. That was one of the
That,
structural
and
changes.
that's on the list of what this task force is reviewing. So,
Okay.
John, it's a very fair question, and I think it's a matter of semantics. give us the list of what you want. And I think, John, you're sitting on the task force, right? So you've got a representative who's on that task force who can come and take the voice of the Boxborough Finance Committee and say, these are the structural changes that we believe. To me, structural change, like, I don't know what it means, to be perfectly honest with you. I know the difference between fiscal and calendar year. Structural change, to me, could mean a whole lot of things.
You know what a structural change is.
You know what a structural change is.
You know what a structural change is.
Can I just tell
But we're not aligned on what a structural change is, because what I'm looking at some of the things that the task force is reviewing is what I would consider a structural change. So,
But just the fact that, and this is to Maria's point, just that you've already kind of like put it down to the elementary school. You've kind of taken a whole bunch of items off the list, right? So in the spirit of transparency, you would have said to us, hey, we're really trying to work this problem. Here's the 5 approaches that we were considering, and the first 3, we have taken them off, and here's why.
we produced a memo with a charge for a task force. It went out in our packet, which I know this group gets an email about every time. There's every opportunity for any member of the public to give us feedback on what the charge for that task force was. I was very clear when we wrote the task force. I said to Peter, I said, we need to be very clear that it is just elementary and why it's just elementary.
But Adam, we gave you this charge last year, and if you send out another memo with a different charge on it, that doesn't get you out of the loop. I'm sorry.
I need a definition of what structural is.
Here's the thing, is if you go to the FY24 or to FY25 budget information, I got this before I sat down with that consultant, and hold on, I'm trying to open it now. I'm opening your budget book, and somewhere in your budget book, there is a list of potential structural changes. And now I can't, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Oh, well, you say that.
Control F.
See, there we go.
Come on. I don't know, Control F. May not be in the budget book, but so what am I looking for? Changes. I'm just
Structural, is there structural changes?
Yeah, it was in our budget Saturday.
Oh, is that where it was?
John, like I said, I think...
Am I imagining something that isn't true?
I think, again, I think we're like talking around each other. The Finance Committee said, look at structural changes. And that was the headline. And we said we're going to look at structural changes. Then when we looked at how do we implement a process to review structural changes, we can't eat the elephant in one bite. And we said we've got 3 big buckets. We have elementary, special education, and secondary. And we said elementary is the one where we probably have the best opportunity to make some good changes quickly. And so that is the part of the budget that we're looking at this year. It's a $117 million budget. There's 1,000 employees. There's 5,000 kids. I think it would be disingenuous for us to say, we're going to take a deep look at structural changes across the entire scope of our operations in 1 year.
So we're going to pay $150,000 a year for the next 3 years?
Quite possibly.
So listen, potential.
But let's see
it's
what the
right in
outcome is. We're not committing to
book
that.
From last year, there's a whole like 4-page of your slide booklet. I'm on page 59 out of 63. Potential structural changes, district opportunities, operations, structural changes to district operations, potential structural changes, health insurance, which you did, special education, transportation, school closure, open enrollment, inter-district school choice. And so, like this was in your book last year, and yet you're being
transportation, inter-district open enrollment. Those are elementary programs. Facilities. We've got more elementary schools than we do secondary schools. So those are the structural changes that this task force is going to look at. They're in week 2, I think. So John, I understand. Like I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying is our understanding of the structural changes, some of those things that were listed there, is what we've charged this task force to look at inside the elementary operations, which is a significant portion of our operations. Mm-hmm. If there are more specifics, please feed them to John and have John represent those as a member on that task force. They're meeting again next week, Tuesday. Like that.
So
we're here for the feedback, but I also don't want you guys to completely check out or think that the process is completely flawed when the process has just started. And we're not investing, I'm not going to invest in 2 more years of this, Maria, if what we get out of this consultant is useless.
I would hope not. And that would suck if it was useless, because that's what we need to do to budget to go forward. One of the things to think about is we took Conan off because it would be disruptive. I understand that. you need to rebuild Conan, which means you're looking at another $100 million building project, which, again, you had MSBA looking at it last year. They toured it while you were telling us you were going to shut it down. So you might only save $1 million by shutting it down, and it's going to be disruptive, but you might save $100 million because you're not building a new school.
But, parents came out to vote for the budget because they didn't want their kids' school closed. To me, that was a scare tactic, because obviously they were
Well,
touring the school with
I
MSBA.
so that's all I'm saying is, it's not just about the $1 million you're gonna save right off the bat by closing that school, and I understand it's disruptive, I'm not saying you gotta close it September 1st, but what you're not looking at is long-term future means you gotta rebuild that school. Maybe it's not $100 million, maybe it's $80 million. It's still a tens of $1 million project. So you're not just talking about saving $1 million, you're talking about $1 million plus the debt on the new school. Right? And so that's the frustrating thing for me, because that to me is short-sighted. When I say structural changes, when I look at my business, if I'm struggling on my cash flow on my business, for me, it might be I have to lay someone off, which I'm not saying you need to do that, but that's a change. I'm going to go from 7 employees to 6 employees, and I'm going to say to my husband, you need to make it work with 6 employees. We can't afford that extra salary. And that's going to be a change. I'm going to say, you know what? You don't need to carry that inventory. That's a change. And that's an accounting change. And it's all of these things. It's looking at today, but also in the future. And so by you just taking Conan off the table, you just saddled the 2 communities with an $80 million school building.
We withdrew from MSBA last year because we knew the towns couldn't or wouldn't support it, and we also chose not to apply last year for Conant for consideration for this year because we knew of that challenge.
I understand, but it needs to be rebuilt. The school needs to be done.
Yeah, so we could close it, and we could save $1.5 million for a couple years until we need to rebuild it, and in those couple of years, we have significant disruption to learning and students and all of that, or we continue to maintain it at some level and are very upfront with the community that we do need this building in the future, and we're going to have to support that at some point. Well, we know that we're not going to get support to rebuild Conant this year. We know that we need to be very upfront about that as part of our plan. Our capital subcommittee is putting together all of those lists. That's a big one. But there are other things like air handlers on the high school and on the Parker Damon building, which have reached the end of life, and we're looking at $500,000 in capital expenses just to do those. We've got roofs we need to do. There's all sorts of things. We are the largest, facilities operator in the town of Acton. Those things are realities, and it's the cost of running the district. I don't think we can, and I think the members of Boxborough who've done great work on their school in Blanchard would think that it's a wise decision to shirk your capital responsibilities on all your facilities for a couple years, knowing that it's going to come back and bite you 5 times over. So
I'm not saying don't maintain your buildings. I'm talking about Conan, and I'm not talking about closing it down for 2 years and then rebuilding it. I am talking about looking at projections for enrollment. And at some point, we're going to level off. And I know, Kristen, whatever, we might get a few extra kids next year. At some point, we're going to level off, right? Because that's what happens. It's an ebb and a flow.
Yep.
And I remember sitting on the committee, remember when there was going to be 750 kids at Blanchard.
And we were going to build
and we're going to build everything. And all of a sudden, I'm
now.
like, there's only 500 kids at Blanchard. We can't even pay a full-time music teacher, right? So that's part of the reason we regionalized. So it ebbs and it flows. So I'm not saying close Conant for 2 years and then rebuild it. I'm talking about that is the type of change you look at, and maybe it can't be done, but you don't know. You just took it off the table.
No, there was plenty of information, and we can find the packets where we went and evaluated the cost, the savings, and what capacity the district would have in terms of classrooms if Conant were off the table completely. And it didn't make sense because we would be at maximum capacity in all of our buildings, and we would have no room for a surge in kids. We would be putting special education programs and classroom education support programs back into broom closets like they were at some of the schools before we had more space at Douglas and Gates. So, the decision was not haphazard, it was not quick, it was considered. And I can tell you that the administration.
I don't know where I was. I watch your meetings. I don't know where I was when you were discussing all this stuff, because I watch almost every one of your meetings on Thursday nights if I have nowhere to be. And if I do have somewhere to be, I generally go back and watch it. I don't remember a big, long conversation about closing Conan. So I'll go back and watch, I'll go back and look again, and I'll go through your minutes. I don't remember any of these conversations at the table, because I watch almost every one of your meetings, and that's why I'm frustrated. Because I feel like these decisions are being made, maybe they're being made, I don't know where they're being made. Memos are going out. I don't always read your packet. I mean, I sit on multiple different committees. I read my own packets. But like, I don't ever remember a conversation about Conant closing, max capacity, yada, yada, yada. I don't remember any of that. And I don't know where I was when you were having those conversations.
What I will ask, and what we'll do is, as part of the recommendation, so the closure of Conant is not in scope for the elementary task force. But as part of the presentation of those recommendations, I'll ask the administration to come back and revisit what we did last year in the conversation. And I'm happy to bring that back to the committee again to reconsider that as part of the overarching sort of plan for the committee.
Or give me a date that you discussed it, and I'm happy to watch that meeting. Maybe I did miss a meeting, I don't know.
Look,
You know,
it can't hurt, and I think it's actually beneficial if we're talking about all of the things that are under consideration. If we took that off the table when we present the feedback from the recommendations from the task force, we should talk about that again and just remind everybody how and why we got to that decision, and give the committee an opportunity, seeing the feedback and the recommendations from the task force, if they want to consider Conan again.
Kristen, you have a question?
So I think this is a great conversation, and there's so many things rolling through my head right now, but I think the biggest thing is that everything does this. Like you bringing back when we thought we were going to have so many kids and we were planning for the future and all that. I think what we have to take into consideration is the economy. I'm sorry, I'm telling everybody I know, I feel like this is 2008. We are coming up on ugly. We've had 14 years of nice, and COVID just put off the change. Back in my day, I got my teaching degree in '88. I taught in Holyoke for 3 years in a condemned building. They were laying off teachers. The only reason I had a job is because they couldn't afford the higher paid teachers. So we all have to accept that the economy is changing, the world is changing, we've been riding high, and we've built these amazing and beautiful programs. We're going to have to make changes. So I think that if we all focus on, your job is the money, your job is to make sure the kids are educated perfectly. The select board is kind of in the middle from the way I'm putting it. But what I heard last year was a lot of concern from this board, and in my ignorance, I didn't chime in either way, was that it feels like the region is top heavy. That what we want is the best teachers teaching our children. We want to give our kids all of those opportunities. We want to maintain our level of education. But what I heard was there's unfilled positions that are kind of floating along. There's too many administrators. And I don't know if any of this is true. I'm just kind of calling a spade of what I heard last year was apparently a lack of understanding on the necessity for all the different levels of administration to make sure the children get the services they need. So I'm right now my head is spinning. I have all these things going on, but all I keep thinking is this is 1992. And we all just need to be prepared that it's going to suck and it's going to be ugly and we're going to have to make changes, and what matters is the kids. And that's what we have to focus on, because I think the next 5 years are going to be hard economically. So that's all I have to say. But I think we all respect each other. I do, as I said, that's all I have to say. I keep talking. I do think that everybody does respect each other. I think we all have strong feelings, and I think that a lot of people in this room have 30-year history, in this town. So we know what we're talking about, but it's coming together and remembering what's important.
Kristen, you reminded me of something. So the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools put together a forum recently. For those of you who don't know, if your enrollment drops, your budget allocation from the state doesn't, and you're in what's called hold harmless, which means you get the same funding as you got the year before. There are now 211 schools in the Commonwealth, or districts in the Commonwealth, that are in hold harmless. So more than 2/3 of the districts are facing very similar situations that we are. So I'm sensitive, extremely sensitive to the taxpayers in Boxborough and Acton and the challenge that this puts on them. We have mandates from the state around a level of administration, a level of services that we need to provide. We got $300,000 last year from the state. We got $16 million of our $114 million budget. And we had our legislators in last week, and I will tell you they were not happy because we grilled them and we said, what is the state doing to help us? And it's not just us, it is 211 districts, school operations in the Commonwealth. So Kristen,
1992.
yeah, this is,
1992.
it's right before the Education Reform Act and the Chapter
That was
70
when everybody
funding
was
model.
laid off, and the only reason I'm sensitive to it is that's when I got my degree.
Yeah.
And we had jobs because we were cheap.
So the Chapter 70 funding model is broken, is what most of us are saying. So there are very few districts now that receive, if you're out of home harmless, we would receive $1.7 million additional every year from the Commonwealth, if not more. Like I said, we got $300K more from them. And we get $300K after we all vote the budget, so that doesn't go into our operations. As the money flows, that ends up in our E&D. And so the money we get from the Commonwealth now supports one-off funds, one-off projects. So this is I'm completely sensitive to the challenge. It is, to overuse the word, it's a structural issue with the funding model in the Commonwealth. And so it's something that we're going to be advocating with our legislators for. There are some bills in front of the Senate and the House to help fix this, to look again at the funding model. Student Opportunity Act was supposed to bring lots of money to schools. We're in hold harmless. Until we're out of hold harmless, we don't see the benefit of Student Opportunity Act. One way to get out of hold harmless, get more kids in the district, full day kindergarten. Full day kindergarten's $1.5 million additional in our budget. And the committee for, as long as I've been on it, 7 years, has been struggling with getting free full day kindergarten.
You could do choice, too. That would get you more children.
It would get us more children, it would not get us a lot more
I
funding.
know, because it's, I understand that, but you've already got teachers in the class, especially at the high school, you've already got the teachers in the classrooms, and if you've got, because I was on the school committee when we took choice, and weaning off of it is like weaning off of cocaine.
Yeah.
It's really tough, because you're used to that money, and all of a sudden,
Not that I have an experience in weaning off of.
okay, well, I'm just saying.
I'm lost in that reference.
I'm just saying, it's like really hard, because you get that money, so if you get $1 million in choice money, but you know what, I mean, if you've got if you've got extra space, which you must, because if there was actually any talk about closing Conant, and you could have put those kids somewhere else, and we must have room in all the other schools.
Or just at the high school.
Or just
We
the high
looked
schools,
at it at
elementary
the
schools.
secondary level, and, because we had capacity there, but to your point, the decision was made not to, because we were thinking maybe it was an extra couple $100,000, and the challenge of then weaning off of that was going to be really hard.
Adam, I need you to hear, this is what you said, it's only a couple $100,000, it's only $1 million, it's only $150,000. You've said all night long, every time you talked about something, it's only. If you put all of those onlys together, you're at $2 million, maybe $3 million. That's what I want you guys to think about. Every $1,000 makes a difference. Every $100,000 makes a bigger difference. And if you add those all together, you end up with $2 million. I mean, and I know it seems like not a lot individually, but that was like at least the third or fourth time you said, well, it was only 300,000, or it was only 100,000, or it's only 20,000. That's something to think about. That is not, the mentality needs to be, well, you know, it's 300,000 and it's 200,000, and if we put all the 100,000s together, we're at $2 million in
And-
cuts that don't include teachers. So
And when we
just-
do our budget,
no.
what we argue about is the last 100,000 on things. So much of what is in our budget, we have it's impossible to move around. We've got contracts. 65% of our budget is from contracts. We are looking at that minutia, Maria. We are looking at how do we make sure that the classes are filled? How do we make sure that all of the educators have full course loads, full workloads? But from my perspective, as someone who's looking at the end and all of the things that we would have to give up or compromises that we would have to make for $300,000. $300,000 is not even 1% of our budget. And it comes with a whole bunch of unknowns. And so we struggle with every dollar. We generated, I think, upwards of 6 budget revisions last year because we were trying to get the best we could out of the limited funds that we had.
Okay. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Adam, for coming and
Thank you for having me.
for the discussion.
Okay, so we added a meeting on the 12th.
Add the meeting on the
We're
12th.
going to let Kirby know that.
We'll let Kirby know.
Yeah.
I'll send the spreadsheet around again with some protected cells in it. And we'll, over the next 2 meetings, we'll look at those numbers and work through some assumptions and do some model planning.
Yeah, I mean, if we could make the decisions on the model on the 12th, that gives us a little bit of, you do it on the 19th, they have to vote on the 21st. So if we can do it on the 12th.
Yeah.
Or
That
even
would
on the
be-
29th. We've got a meeting on the 29th.
We've got two meetings, but we've got a
Right.
meeting next 2 weeks' time. We've got a
Right,
meeting on the
29th.
12th.
And
Still
the
a few
12th.
iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but if we
Yeah.
could do that kind of come up with a final,
Yeah.
and will you be ready to give us some information on, by the 12th, do you think?
Probably not. I'll just receive my department head inputs.
Even if real high level?
Yes.
Like even if you came in and said, it's not gonna be 6%, it's gonna be 4%, right? I mean, that would, something like that. It doesn't need to be, I'm looking at 2.65.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you whatever feedback I can.
Did you share that with all of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be, I mean, at least if, like I said, if you could do high level on the 12th, and then that gives us some time, and if we had to go back on the 19th and look at it again, we could.
And I know it's harder to hide money in the town budget than is the school budget. Because like they found money for like their new website, which is like $7,000 a year, which I know it's nothing. I know it's not a lot of money, but again, it's $7,000 a year. So it's just like, we would see $7,000, right? Because we like cut $100 out of budgets if we need to, like, oh, look, there's not spending that much money in that line. So it's, our budget's much more transparent than their budget. Their budget's hard to go through. It's better than it was when I was on the committee, because when I was on the committee, I couldn't even figure it out. But
The capital budget, where is the capital plan? Is that on our page? Do you guys have it posted?
I don't know.
It may be on the capital,
Yeah.
the
Can
capital
somebody
committee
just send it
page.
to me so I can look at it? Do you
Yeah.
mind, the detail?
I don't have.
well, Gary
Do we
probably
have
has
it?
it.
Well, no, it came out,
We
it
do.
was sent out this week,
We
right?
do, we're working on it this week.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I just wouldn't, it's hard for me to do this in little chunks with blinders on. Like, I'd like to look at the capital plan and really understand in detail what's on there and what might be able to be moved. So in my own head, when I come back at the next meeting, I'm more comfortable, we don't have 5.5 million, because, that kind of thing.
I
So,
think we're gonna have to do a big need versus wants this year. Real hard needs versus wants.
yeah, so, if
Yeah,
I,
I'll just forward that to the committee.
do you mind?
Yeah,
That
tomorrow.
would be great, because then, like I said, it was just in
Just
my own-
realize it's, we haven't taken
it.
in any capital. We're going off of where we were last year.
Yep, yep.
On, what we thought we'd need for
Yeah,
next
that'd
year.
be good.
so.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
But that's a good start at
Sure.
least it gives me some context.
Yep.
Okay, in that case, do you have a
Actually,
motion?
can I just say one more thing?
Oh, go ahead.
Adam, can you,
Adam's like,
just, I know we missed this already, but can you take it to the committee that other items outside the elementary environment are considered for improvements? I just feel like people probably articulated it better than I have already, but it just seems like you've already segmented it down and you're taking out a lot of opportunity in terms of making a key structural change. Does that make sense? You've
Yes.
focused on elementary, and I guess I'm sure there are reasons why, but from our perspective, you're leaving a whole bunch of areas totally untouched for the
It's
upcoming
a
year.
Fair comment, John. What I would say is we're looking with going through the elementary schools with a fine-tooth comb. Every year, we look at programs, we look at staffing, we look at opportunities for savings, and you'll see that in the budget documents where we'll discontinue programs or we'll end things, we'll cut staff. Our IT staff is bare bones now to be able to make changes to put money towards where we need it to be.
Right, but my question is, I need you guys to expand it outside of the elementary environment for what you're considering for the task force.
I'll consider it. I'll bring it to the committee for a conversation, but I think at this point, the task force has been charged, the consultant's been hired.
How many times have you met? Twice?
The task force the task force has met once. The consultant started in July.
Isn't high school programming most expensive though?
Sorry?
I guess
I have to ask why you picked up, I understand you said earlier, it's 6 schools versus 2 schools. It's half the population, so I understand. But my limited understanding is that the real money is spent at the high school, not at the elementary school. No? Like in terms of programs. Because I'm thinking about what my grandkids do. What are you going to cut? But maybe you don't need Italian or something. I'm just throwing that out
We
there.
don't have Italian.
Okay, well, my daughter took Italian.
It's a good question, Kristen. I asked the same.
Okay. 'cause it
And
seems
what
like
I was told, and I believe, is that there's a greater opportunity for efficiency at the elementary level.
Okay, all right.
Like, how many IT people do we have? Because I know theirs is bare bone. I just want to know what ours is. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
So you know the answer, you're all set?
I know.
Wow. Do it here with the school.
Mike, anytime you need some IT support, I'm sure the superintendent would be happy to loan some.
Okay, since you brought it
Wait a
up,
second, because we've asked before. We've asked.
We did-
and
we did come to
we were
the school.
told no.
2 years ago, we came to school, and it appeared that we had, I said I'm not going to get into it with the school.
I'm just saying.
And I'm not. It seemed that the systems were incompatible. So we have a managed IT service that we pay a management company to do that for us, which is, it's better than if we were to hire our own staff, but probably not as good as if we were able to partner, and we haven't found that partner yet.
Maybe there's a chance for savings.
Maybe.
Okay.
Harvard, Stowe, you know.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. No, we're no
more,
longer,
no.
Kishab is not here anymore, so.
No, it's a second?
Second.
Okay.
Don't turn it off till we adjourn, because we have to roll call.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, John?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye, okay. So,
All right, I'll entertain.
8:55,
Yeah.
so Gary
I
knows.
want him to turn it off, so.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the select board.
I'll second that.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Bob. Roll call vote. Priya?
Aye.
Alba?
Whittam, aye.
Thank you.
McKinnon, aye.
Hilberg, aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.